Time to wake up. It's Saturday morning. Find some milk and cereal. Grab a bowl and spoon. No, a bigger spoon. Head to the living room and take a seat on the floor while Joseph and Chris present to you Saturday Morning Cartoon!
Hello everybody and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoon Boom! This is Short Wake with the Saturday Morning Sun, popped on all four big blow sugars here. We'll tell you favorite cartoons, both old and new. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris. And this was suggested by you. Why did you choose this? What event took place that you thought you could come in here and pick something that you wanted to watch, Joseph?
Well, I got a little older. It was my birthday. And so I reserved the right to choose a series based on that. And I chose this because I hadn't really seen too much of it, but what I did see I really enjoyed, and I was curious about it. So I'm glad I dove further in, though. And as short as it is, episode lengthwise, which is about 5 minutes each, it's so easy to digest, but there's so much to it. Like, it seems like a very dense world of stuff.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so going in, but man, yeah, it just builds and builds.
Yeah, even those 5 minutes episodes, like, they were loaded with so much information, and I'm like, all right, I don't know what this means, I don't know what this means, I don't know what this means.
One of the episodes we watched, I felt like it was at least 20 minutes, and it wasn't. It wasn't even close. Yeah, there's just like, and not in a bad way, not in a, God, when's this going to end kind of thing. It's just like the amount of information my brain processed, I was like, that couldn't have been 5 minutes. There's no way. But
the show Bravest Warriors aired from 2012 to current, really. It's still going on. Created by Pendleton Ward, of course, the creator of Adventure Time and animator of Adventure Time. Developed by Breen Burns, Will McRobb, and Chris Viscardi. Produced by Frederator Studios. The TV series, okay, so it used to be a web series, which I'll get into in a second. But the TV series was also produced by Nelvana. It's so far run for 4 seasons, 56 episodes, originally on the Nicktoons network for the pilot, which aired back in 2009, which we did not see, and Cartoon Hangover via YouTube from 2012-2017 is when it was a web series, and that was season 1 through 3. Then Cartoon Hangover Select on VRV, which is how I viewed it, which started in 2017 and is still running on there to present. And I think that's where season 4 debuted, was on Cartoon Hangover on VRV. So
that makes sense, because there's definitely some changes in that 4th season from what I can tell. I mean, at least like they have an actual intro and things like that.
Yeah, stylistically, it's slightly different too. The animation style changed some, but I think overall it's keeping up with the same story. So I don't think there's any like huge changes aside from just the presentation at that point. Also, the episodes are slightly longer because I think at that point they become 11-minute episodes versus the 5 minutes of the previous 3 seasons. And for a short synopsis, Bravest Warriors is an American animated series set in the year 3085. It follows 4 teenage heroes for hire as they warp to the universe to save adorable aliens and their world using the power of their emotions.
Which sounds ridiculous, but it's, I guess it still is ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of is ridiculous, but not in a bad way. Yeah, exactly.
And there are some adorable aliens, like, for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yes.
Who are some of the actors who played in this show?
Well, I'm gonna go over a few of these. I'll mention the pilot. I'll mention the web series if it's a different voice actor, and the TV series, so that you're getting a little bit of everything. So the character of Chris Kirkman in the pilot was voiced by Charlie Schlatter, sure. In the web series, voiced by Alex Walsh, and in the TV series, the role of Chris was taken over by Graham Jokic. The character of Beth Tezuka was voiced by Tara Strong in the pilot. Tara is definitely someone that we've heard of a lot in this show. And then for the TV series, taken over by Liliana Mumi. Character of Danny Vasquez in the pilot, voiced by Rob Paulson. And then in the series, taken over by John Omohundro. The character of Wallow in the pilot, voiced by Danny Finnerty. And in the series, Ian Jones-Cordy. Character of Impossibear was voiced by Michael Leon Woolley. Character of Catbug, voiced by Sam Lavagno. Nino? I don't know. And the character of Plum, voiced by Tara Strong, who formerly voiced Beth. So Tara gets to come back.
Yeah, and since there was a 3-year spread between the pilot and the actual airing of the first web series episode, it's like, who knows what could have gone on in that time that it would have changed up the actors.
Right. Rob Paulson may have died for 3 years and came back after the show had already been brought back.
As a Ninja Turtle, probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's my assumption is why he's not in the show.
For a few tasty marshmallows out of our big bowl of Bravest Warriors cereal, the animated series began streaming on Cartoon Hangover on November 8, 2012. The series is based on a short produced for Frederator's Nicktoon Network animation incubator series Random Cartoons, because it's got an exclamation point after random.
Oh, I like that.
That aired on January 10, 2009, and a comic book adaptation published by Boom Studios launched on October 24, 2012. The 4th season, unlike the previous 3, is animated using Toon Boom Harmony and is no longer animated frame by frame. It's not that noticeable to me. I mean, it's still well animated. I don't know what the big difference is between the frame by frame and the Toon Boom Harmony. So I guess I didn't really notice a huge difference, but something that I thought was interesting, kind of in the same way that Harley Quinn was introduced into the Batman animated series. I believe Catbug, Impossibear, and Plum were all started in the comics and were then brought over into the TV series, maybe the web series, but at least a TV series after that.
Oh, cool. Do you know, is there a lot of comics or is it just like they've had a few here and there or what's the deal there? Tell me, Joseph.
So I know at least Impossibear has his own one-shot comic, which I definitely want to check out. But as far as the Boom Studios comics, they ran for 36 issues. I don't know if anything's still going on now or if it's restarted in any way. But yeah, so you've got at least a 36 issue run and some one-shots.
Nice.
Had you ever heard of the show before we started watching it?
No, I had no idea. And the very first image of it, and I mean, anyone that isn't familiar with this, the very first thing you're going to say is, this looks like Adventure Time, because the animation is the exact same style. I mean, like you said, it has the same creator and artist as Adventure Time. So the way that characters are drawn, as far as like the shapes and their eyes and mouths and lack of noses, in some respects, you're definitely going to pick up on that real quick. So I just kind of assumed it was by the same creators, but other than that, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, and if you look at Impossibear, like at first I thought it was Jake.
He looks like Jake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Except he's supposed to be a bear.
He's a rainbow bear with a mustache.
Yeah. And he calls regular bears Possibears.
I like it.
Yep. Yeah, I hadn't really heard of it either before I picked up VRV, and then I was just kind of browsing through some stuff. It stood out to me because like we were saying, it looks like Adventure Time. So I was like, oh, I like Adventure Time. Let's check it out. So I guess let's go ahead and jump into the episodes we watched for today's show. The very first episode, highest rated episode, finally random illusion chosen episode, or to be very depending on how the episodes fall chronologically. But of course, they have to start with the very first episode, which was Time Slime, Season 1, Episode 1. And in this one, the Bravest Warriors must save Glendale or be forever stuck in a time loop.
Yeah, this was a fun intro because I wasn't sure what kind of show I was going to get here. There's 4 teenagers, they're in space. I'm like, okay, so I'm not sure what this is going to be. They get a distress call from this alien who's not looking for them. They're looking for the courageous battlers, which made me laugh. And it turns out that was their parents. Who,
yeah.
And maybe you know more about this. Did they think that their parents were killed, or did they know that their parents were just missing somewhere?
I think they thought that they were killed at first, and then it's in a later episode that it's revealed that they're trapped in an alternate dimension.
I love the reaction of the alien that was looking for help, who was just like, but you kind of look like dorks.
Yeah.
And like, Danny gets all offended and like flips her off and starts yelling.
Yeah.
And right away I'm like, okay, this is going to be that kind of show. And now I'm like, I'm ready for it now.
Oh yeah. He's got a very short temper. And yeah, you've got, so like you said, he does flip them off, but it's a blurred out, but you know what it is.
I think that's funnier, honestly. Like, I don't know. I get the same way about like curse words sometimes, where like a well-placed one is funny, but I also think that when it's bleeped, that makes it funnier. So I like that they blurred out him flipping off the alien, stuff like that. And I think they did that a few times in this episode. I feel like someone else flipped him off too at some point.
Well,
but,
I know I know
it.
Danny does it at least twice because they're called dorks multiple times by different sources.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's funny also because So you've got Wallow, who's this like, he's the big like tank looking dude, and he has this glove, this like cybernetic glove, but it's like super, it's called Pixel, but it's super possessive and jealous of anybody who talks to him, like any woman who tries
his
to
glove
talk
has
to him.
an AI.
And the AI is just super possessive of him. And there's this, so the Supreme Chancellor Gale from the Moon of Glendale is the one who is asking for their help. And she's just this like small, like slug looking species. And you see, like you get in this episode that Wallow and she have some sort of previous relationship. And like he's still attracted to her and vice versa. And that's where Pixel's jealousy comes into play.
Pixel like takes over his hand and like tries to attack her.
Yeah.
Which, it's funny because that happens multiple times in the episode, which was great. I think my favorite part was when they introduced Professor Fart Sparkles.
Oh, yeah.
It's just such a great character, and like the name is the best. But the whole thing of like, she's like, we have to wake him up from his, I don't remember, it was like his time nap. And,
yeah.
Yeah, she makes it sound so ominous, and then she just slaps him in the face. Well, he's explaining what's going on, like what's causing their problems, and it was essentially I don't remember the name of the device, but it's basically there's something. Well, it's not something gone wrong with it. This device's AI is getting moody.
Yeah,
and it's getting even moodier, and that is messing with time itself. Yeah, and they find out they'll be stuck in a 5-minute time loop for all eternity unless they stop it.
Right. It's the time generator. The core of it is getting moody, like you said. It's interesting when you're going into it because you're just following this first group of, you know, the current group of Bravest Warriors that you're seeing. And then as they enter the time generator, you see just their bodies laid out on the ground. Like, I guess the ones who would come in right before, and they're all dead. And then they're just like, oh no, like, what do we do? And then like it goes through the cycle where you see exactly what happened. And it's kind of like a cyclical time thing where they go through this stuff and then they die in the exact same way. And
I love it.
And what's funny is like, as you see them like in the time room about to die, or, you know, you see them in the time room before the death part comes in, and then like you kind of go outside to where they were previously and you see the new group coming in to do the same thing. And they instantly wake up Professor Fart Sparkles again and go through the exact same motions. So you see it just recurring over and over again. And that's comical to see that. And then after they die, this new group comes by.
They just end the episode. Like, they don't resolve it.
No. What I liked also was like, so since the mood of the generator is or the mood of the core of this generator is what's kind of messing up time, when you see Gale and Wallow in there and she's like, or he's like, oh, I've never stopped loving you. And then they start kissing, like that's calming the core down. Yes. But then Pixel's jealousy is what riles it back up and causes them all to be killed. That was a fun starting episode. It was a weird one because there's a lot. And this is, like I was saying earlier, there's a lot that you're just like, I don't understand. Like, I feel like there needed to be something before that told me, like, introduce these characters. But I guess, like I said, they're gonna be introduced slowly over time, and this is just like a jump in episode where you can be assumed to know things about the characters and go from there.
Yeah, they just kind of hit the ground running and didn't bother with introductions, which I feel like sometimes it's kind of jarring, but sometimes it works. And I think this one, it was kind of somewhere in the middle. This episode, I found it funny, and there's parts I liked. I wasn't sold on the show from that episode.
I agree with you there. And like I said, as short as they are, this was literally 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like they fit so much into it. And I think we talked about it just now for more than 5 minutes, which is...
Yeah, we've talked longer than the episode is.
Right.
So
that's just
obviously there's something to it.
Yeah, they've packed so much into it. But the next episode we watched for today's show was Catbug, season 1, episode 12, which I chose because I had watched it before, and I just love Catbug. He's such a great character.
There are a couple great characters that I love in this. There's Catbug, who is just hilarious, but the one that made me laugh the hardest was Paralyzed Horse.
Oh yeah.
The first image of that, I was laughing so loud. I couldn't believe it.
Paralyzed Horse is Beth's pet horse who years ago like found out the meaning of everything, meaning of life and everything. And then he was so shocked by that, or he's constantly so shocked by that he in turn is constantly paralyzed or has been paralyzed by that. And so you never hear him talk. Well, you hear him, like he never talks out loud, but you hear his thoughts, and he's constantly going on these like crazy monologues about the meaning of life and the situation that's going on. But
he sounds like Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, basically. And what you're seeing though is just this horse that pretty much looks dead, laying on the ground with his eyes wide open.
His eyes are wide, his mouth's open with his tongue hanging out. And it's just, it's so funny.
It's so strange.
I don't know how it gets from place to place because, I mean, they've shown it in a few different places. And I'm like, how does it move?
I know it, at one point, like, and this is kind of a later thing, but at one point, like, it literally kind of goes into a different plane of existence to defend Beth. And then it kind of remains there in its like astral form. It's so weird. I don't know. To describe this episode, when the Bravest Warriors receive mysterious gifts from the see-through zone, they must use their wits to unlock the door to the greatest secret. So,
and maybe you can answer me this. So Catbug, he's kind of like what you imagine. He's this cute little cat that has like a ladybug wings on its back. Super adorable. Like the cutest thing ever. Talks super cute. I mean, it has the voice of a child, basically, because it was a child voicing the character. The thing that is added on to that character that I think is hilarious is so Catbug, like, I don't say he teleports, but he gets teleported because he's not controlling it to that other dimension. And the noise that happens every time he gets teleported is hilarious.
Well, it's like him screaming. So Catbug is an interdimensional being that is living basically torn between two dimensions. So like you said, he teleports not even at will to each dimension. And I guess it's such a shocking thing that he literally screams out loud every time it happens. But it's such a background thing. Like no one ever responds to it. Like, oh my God, he's screaming. Like it's just, this is the way it is. And this is how it happens.
This episode, he keeps coming back with gifts for our four main characters. And maybe something must have been established before this, but obviously it's Catbug is being transported to where their parents are, and their parents are giving him gifts to bring back to the kids. But the gifts are like such like mom and dad things. Like there's a tray of peanut butter squares, and there's like like something to clear out your sinuses.
For Wallow, they gave him his Pony Lord's Battle Aquarium.
Right.
It's basically like if you think of treasure trolls, also think of battle trolls. It's kind of like the My Little Pony equivalent of that.
So it turns out that the gifts came with like some sort of bacteria on them. The bacteria, obviously it looks like it could be harmful.
Beth, she's talking about the laws of space-time and how they don't apply here.
They're trying to, was the bacteria like forms into this big door?
Well, it forms into a big like monster frog looking thing.
Yeah.
And then that frog's mouth open, it just spreads open and it's a large key locked door.
This door forms, they can't figure out how to open it. And then we're seeing Beth goes to Paralyzed Horse to kind of like, I don't know, just calm down. She's worried because everyone else got gifts from their parents and nothing came from hers. So I guess she doesn't know for sure that her parents are still alive, I'm assuming. And then she's sleeping, and then we're just hearing the inner monologue of a paralyzed horse. I don't know, it's interesting. Talks about like how protective he is of her and things like that. And that the gift itself is actually a gift for Beth. And I think this is interesting because it's like, I was sad when the episode ended because I'm like, oh, I want to know what this is. Because this is a goofy show, but it hints at some like actual semi-serious subplot. And so I'm interested to see where things like that go.
Through the narration of a paralyzed horse.
Exactly. Like it's
so let that sink in.
It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't.
Yeah. What they also say is that Ralph Waldo Pickle Chips is the key to this door. And I like where Danny's like, I'm not going to rest until I've opened that door. And then it fast forwards 10 hours later. He's like, all right, I'm going to bed. Because they couldn't open the door. When Paralyzed Horse is narrating, at one point he's like, he's like, sleep now, bravest warriors, dream of keys and doors and Ralph Waldo pickle chips. And it's just such a funny, I don't know. These lines are just hilarious. It's like an awkward humor a little bit. I mean, of course, like Adventure Time is, but there's a little bit more seriousness to it in some portions, like you said. And it really, I don't know, you're just into it. Like even all that aside, I wouldn't ever have thought that I could hear a paralyzed horse tell me something and he would have my attention like that. Like it's just such a strange concept.
I mean, you could take anything you could take the craziest concept that's, something absolutely strange and add something with heart to it and in a creative way. And that totally will suck somebody in just like it did us. So, I mean, this is the kind of writer's room I would love to be in. I would love to be a part of something like that.
Oh, yeah. Like this is stuff that you and I just sit and talk about sometimes, about weird things like that.
Yeah, exactly. These episodes are like normal conversations between me and you.
It's like, okay, paralyzed horse, Catbug, I'm in. Like, totally. Let's go. I'm with you. So the last episode we watched for today's show was Whispers in the Morning, season 4, episode 1. And this was the highest rated episode, like very highly rated. And I think in part it could have been the higher production value, or at least like maybe the longer length of the episode, or maybe it's just because there's so much backing it up coming into BRV, I suppose. But in this one, when Chris's heart gets stabbed by a moop-infected flame sword, it's up to the rest of the Bravest Warriors to get him back safely to the ship in time for Beth's date with another guy. Okay, so a couple of things before we start on this. So Beth and Chris are best friends, but they also have like a kind of a thing for each other. More Chris really than Beth, but Beth's just Beth does too, but hers is, Chris is more like pronounced about it, I guess. And so it's one of those weird relationships where it's like I ship it, but at the same time, it's like they're both trying to live their separate lives, dating and otherwise. So there's complications there. And then what moop is emotions. So when I say a moop infected sword, flame sword, it's a sword that's just like stirring with emotions.
Okay, so like in this universe, emotion is like a tangible thing, right?
Essentially, yeah. And also something to point out, which comes up a little bit in this episode, is each of them has what I believe are called animal stickers. And it's kind of like if you think about King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, where they each have those animals icons, like it's kind of like that, where I know
they can pull their weapons out and their armor comes through it. Yeah,
exactly. And they can transform into sort of different things. Like Wallows is, I think it's a falcon or something, and so he gets this like falcon axe, but he can also get like a falcon like chain gun. So they each kind of have their not spirit animals, but I'm trying to think of the word, like avatars.
Yeah. Beth was a cat. Mm-hmm. Danny is a dog. I don't know what Chris is because Chris, I didn't get to see him in action.
Yeah, Chris is bees. Like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why you see that little bee when it's like at the beginning where it's like Bravest Warrior and there's that icon that's a bee.
That makes sense.
Chris's icon. Yeah.
Well, that's a really random one.
Yeah.
So I could not find the voice of the big robot skeleton guy that Chris is fighting or the voices of the Nega cats. But
oh man.
I do think though, I think it's Frank Welker.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I really do think it is.
I would not doubt that. That first guy he was fighting looks cool, like that big skull dude. And I love the way he talks too. And then Chris has that translator, so he's saying really basic things, but he sounds awesome.
It was kind of funny that you couldn't understand what he's saying, and then like you'd have the little robot kind of translator thing saying it for him, and it just sounded goofy. Like it was much less intimidating. And I did like, so the guy gets Chris dead to rights and he stabs him through the heart with the moop infected sword. And then he basically says, any last words? And Chris is just like, yeah, you suck. Like,
yeah,
that made me laugh because it reminded me of, me and my girlfriend just finished watching Parks and Recreation. It reminded me of Jean-Ralphio, like how he's always singing everything.
Yeah. And again, he gives him the finger, the blurred finger.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Beth comes in and saves the day shooting a rocket. And they're able to rescue Chris from this, but not before he is stabbed to the heart, like we said. This is where like I mean, we're coming in 3 seasons later, so there's a lot of new characters for us at this point. Plum is like a girl trapped in a balloon type encasing, I guess. I don't know when that came about or why. So that's happened. Danny is sick with radiation sickness, so he's literally green, and he has like a pixelated skull and crossbones above his head.
Oh, when he coughs and his eyebrows shoot off and land on Beth.
Oh yeah, and Wallow's
He's like, sorry.
He's like, that's not supposed to happen. And I think Wallow's dressed like a woman or something.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
he's wearing like a wig and everything.
Right. So there's a lot that I have no idea why. I don't know. It might be something that was explained previously, or it could just be like, well, here we are, season 4, and this is how we're opening.
I honestly kind of hope that they just opened with it for no reason, with like all those characters in that state.
Right. I would not be surprised at all. We also get, like you said, Captain Meow and his
mecha
cats. Yeah. They're like cybernetic looking cats, but they're still cat size, and they're not really formidable looking at all. They just have like cybernetic eyes, it looks like.
I love when the one tries to talk and it just has that little sinister like series of meows. And he has the laugh. Oh my God, that laugh.
Oh yeah. And no one understands it either.
They do translate it, and my favorite was when he basically says, "You will all die while we lick our poopers."
My favorite part of this episode, just hands down, is where they turn Catbug into a captain.
Okay, give us that rundown, because that whole series, this is the first time I've seen Impossibear also, and all the pigeons. I don't know where the pigeons came from, but that whole subplot of this episode was great.
Back on the ship, which is a giant orca whale, mechanical orca whale thing, and Catbug was given the captain's hat. Like, he's captain of the ship for now. And according to the Bravest Warriors, it's to teach him accountability. And he needs all the captain practice he can get. And then Impossibear is upset over this because he feels like he's the quartermaster. He should be next in command, blah, blah, blah.
Well, he said that it was one of the pigeons' turn.
Oh, right. He, like, as the quartermaster, like, he wants one of the pigeons to become captain. And these are I don't even think these are like sentient pigeons or anything. They're just like actual pigeons.
I think they're just pigeons.
Yeah, and so they're just flying around, just clucking whatever. In this period of time, like after we see Catbug being captain, Impossibear is like, he's going to start a mutiny. So he gets all the pigeons and he goes and basically just takes Catbug's cap and tells him to go like sit in the closet. Yeah, and he's just like, okay. And he just does everything agreeably. And so then Impossibear takes over. And, he takes over as the quartermaster and gives the captain's hat to one of the pigeons. And it's such a weird subplot, but it's so fun.
Yeah, like it goes back to that ship later after seeing the main characters for a while. And the pigeons are just pecking away like the keyboards and pooping on everything. And they're just being pigeons. And Impossibear's like, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
So then he ends up letting Catbug out of the closet to make him captain again. And when he opens it, Catbug has been knitting scarves for all of them while he was in there. That's the best.
Impossibear is like, that is the most captain-y thing that I've ever seen.
Oh, it's so good. There was a lot of funny parts of this episode. I liked when they were trying to rouse Chris to use his emotion powers to get them they were drowning in kitty litter. And they figured out the only way to not arouse, but, well, kind of. And the only way to arouse him was to kiss him, like a, love's true kiss or whatever. Both Danny and Plum are fighting over who gets to kiss him.
Well, yeah,
because like, I don't think it's appropriate for me to do it.
Right, because she and Chris are in a good place, so she doesn't want to confuse things, so she won't do it. And then, like you said, Danny and Plum are fighting over it, and then Wallow comes in and takes over.
I like it too when he kisses him, and he's just like, sorry, bro, had to be done.
And he's just like, I understand.
Doesn't question it. He's like, yep. Well, there was the subtle thing too. When he first started waking up, he said Beth's name because I guess he assumed it was Beth because.
Oh yeah, because it was
obviously he's still in love with Beth.
Right, he harbors feelings for her still. But it was one of those things where like he opens his eyes and his things are still kind of blurry because he hasn't focused yet. So yeah. He just assumes it's Beth. And it's just big old Wallow there. Like what they had done was plant explosives on this ship with all these cats on it. I don't remember what their main objective was there, but basically they're blowing the ship up. So they escape and they do that. Like when we get back to the ship, the way it closes out of this episode is we've got Chris like laying on the table and he tells Beth to Beth doesn't want to leave his side because he's just come back. And then he tells her to go on her date with Zachary Ryan, who I guess is her boyfriend or new date at this time. And then after she leaves, we see like it kind of zooms in on his heart that's still infected by all that Moop energy. And then it like lets out a little cackle. And then you see Chris like get really angry. So emotions or Moop are taking him over.
Yeah, I thought that was cool because then it's just kind of like, oh, so obviously Chris is going to, not go evil, but like he's not going to be in control. And I mean, since he has emotion powers, that could go very wrong.
Yeah, as an emotion lord, which is a whole nother thing. And that comes in some earlier episodes. Well, Chris, looks like it's about time we send our inner kids to Beth's house to learn the secrets of the universe from Paralyzed Horse. Then find out what they thought of the show, Bravest Warriors.
This cartoon was so awesome because it's got all these teens in space with crazy aliens and kitty bugs and lasers and sword fights, and it's so pretty. Plus, everyone fights about wanting to kiss Chris. And I'm a Chris, too. So when I grow up, I'm going to take command of a space whale ship by force with a group of pigeons since I've already been catching a bunch in the backyard. So I gave this cartoon 5 bowls of Negacat cereal out of 5.
As crazy as this cartoon gets, it still has me surprisingly intrigued. The main characters are an enjoyable group to follow, and the secondary ones are so full of character that many of them could easily have their own spin-off series. While it may come across as random most of the time, I feel like there's a deeper meaning gleaming through, especially with all the individual plot lines and emotion, or Moop, being a big focus. Overall, I'd give Bravest Warriors 5 big bowls of Impossible Bite cereal out of 5, and whether there's more to this than what's on the surface or not, this is still a very entertaining show, and being as short as it is, I think it's definitely worth your time. Given how insanely cute Catbug is, I wonder if the fleas my dog had that time were simply trying to merge with him and form an equally adorable dog bug creature. Next time they come back, instead of giving him flea medication, I'll just put a captain's hat on his head and patiently await results.
Yeah, dogs will wear things. Don't put a hat on a cat ever. I don't care if it's a cat bug, a negacat. They will just run you into oblivion because cats are petty like that.
So you're saying Dr. Seuss taught us wrong all these years?
Yeah, you don't trust a cat in the hat. I mean, look at him. He wrecked the house.
That's true.
Maybe he was in so much trouble.
Yeah, he was trying to teach us a life lesson. Do not put a hat on a cat.
Exactly. So do you have any final thoughts on Bravest Warriors?
While it seems like the episodes, they felt very dense, we got such a small dosage of all that there is that I am definitely curious to watch more, especially to tie together some of these loose ends that are in my head where it's like, I don't necessarily get where a lot of it comes from. And maybe some of it is just randomly placed in there for the sake of humor. And if so, that's fine. Like it works for me. But at the same time, if there's things I'm missing out on, I want to tie those up. Really, I'd jump in just to see more Catbug. So yeah, I'm definitely going to keep watching, and so far, so good.
From the first episode, I thought that this was just going to be a goofy show, which I was totally fine with. But kind of like what I said earlier with the second episode, they seem to start adding some real underlying emotional story to it, which is something that I love to see in a TV series or a cartoon. It reminds me of other shows that kind of started that same way, like Futurama and Rick and Morty, that on the surface just seem like these goofy like sci-fi shows, but there's these actual serious emotional undertones to them that pop out every once in a while. And I think that's like my favorite kind of show, honestly. Plus, I mean, the design, the colors, all the character designs are amazing. So this is something I'm going to go back and watch in full. I absolutely loved it. And since the episodes are short, it's so easy to hold your attention and just digest it in just whatever time you've got. So yeah, there's no reason for me not to go back and watch this entire thing. You know, I'm going to be reading the comics and everything too. I've got to digest all of this stuff.
36 issues, definitely digestible.
All over it.
Well, listeners, looks like our milk supply is now run dry, so it's time for us to say goodbye. And next week, we'll be watching
SpongeBob SquarePants, submitted via YouTube by Nickel Force.
That's one of those shows, like a lot of other ones, where I felt like we would have watched it by now. But since we haven't. Yeah.
We're like, I mean, in a few months, we'll be 150 episodes in, and this is the first time we're doing SpongeBob. And it hasn't even been on the request list for very long, so I can't believe no one requested it before now, but It was like as soon as it got added, everyone voted that thing up to the top of the list. I mean, within days.
So it shot up to the top? That's awesome.
I think everything when I first type it in, it goes somewhere in the middle, neutral basically. So it's in the 60s or something. And immediately shot way up there. So you guys really want us to do SpongeBob. So we're doing SpongeBob. You're welcome. And real quick before we go, just wanted to give a happy birthday shout out to Carter.
Yeah, happy birthday, Carter. Hope you got everything you wished for, and I look forward to seeing more of your artwork, especially if it has us in it.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Once again, I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
We'll see you next Saturday.
Presented by Nerdsloth.
A place for lazy nerds.
If you like what you heard, consider donating at patreon.com/nerdsloth so we can continue bringing you quality shows. Be sure to also leave us a review and share your favorite episodes and clips on social media. If you're looking for more content, visit us at nerdsloth.com.